Discover the advantage of unlimited access to all the stories and resources from IBJ and inside Indiana business. From insights to inspiration, business leaders rely on the IBJ for all things Indiana business. Start your $1 a week trial now at ibj.com/trial offer.
Do you want to mix moments of inspiration with time to network? IBJ Media Events has you covered. From industry deep dives to awards celebrations honoring Indiana's top leaders, see what's coming up and reserve your seat now at ibj.com/register.
Scott Dixon goes to victory lane, winning an outstanding career.
And that's where the boring becomes brilliant.
Racing legend and Indy 500 winner Scott Dixon connecting the dots between boring and brilliance. A torchbearer for PNC Bank's brilliantly boring marketing campaign. What makes a bank tick in today's economy? What are the challenges? And why giving back to community through education is an important part of the equation. We get some answers from PNC Regional President for Central and Southern Indiana, Jason Eckerle, on the Business and Beyond podcast. And I'm pleased to be joined on the podcast this week by Jason Eckerle. Jason is the Regional President for Central and Southern Indiana for PNC Bank. Jason, how are you?
I'm great, Gary. How are you?
I'm good. We're making our way through the summer. As we're taping this, we've been through a hot, humid stretch, but it's cooled off here, so I'm feeling better.
It does feel a lot better, and I think all the activity downtown here with Gen Con, it's going to be a fun weekend in Indianapolis.
For those who don't go or haven't been downtown during Gen Con, is there anything quite like Gen Con in downtown Indianapolis?
There's not, Gary. There's not. It is. It's good for the city. It's remarkable. You get to walk around and people watch, which I thoroughly enjoy, and that is just having 70,000 people come in from out of town. It's good for the city, and it brings a certain energy to the city. So it's a good thing.
It does. We'll talk a little bit about this later, but you grew up in Indianapolis. You're a native Hoosier, right?
I did.
And what's your take on Indianapolis today? It's changed dramatically, obviously, over the years. To me, I think we're at another tipping point now with a lot of projects that are in the pipeline, new hotels, new life for Circle Center that's on the way, Elanco headquarters. There's a lot going on downtown. What's your take on the vibrancy of the downtown Indy?
Yeah, the first thing, Gary, I just want to first off, thank you for having me. I'd be remiss if I didn't say that. And thank you for all you've done for Indiana. Congrats on all that you've built in bringing us some critical business news over the decades. So it's a little surreal sitting here with you, having watched your show and listened to the podcast and now being a part of it. So it's good to be here, but thank you. My take on Indianapolis is I'm bullish. I've lived here my whole life, Gary. I think what's going on, you see in the downtown area, particularly, you said a few things, Elanco, the hotel going up, the new Signia going up. I think close by what's going on up in the Leap District, up in Lebanon, and what Eli Lilly is doing and the growth that you're going to see up there. I think the energy is really strong. And you look at some of the metrics, some of the metrics are good. You look at the unemployment rate, you look at job growth, Indianapolis actually fares pretty well versus some of our peers in the rest of the Midwest. So I feel good about it. And we've got work to do. There's more we can do, I think, relative to the vitality of downtown. But I love the city. I've lived here my whole life. And I think we're making a lot of good progress.
Yeah. Let's look at the big picture. You talked about some of the metrics, but in terms of the overall health of the banking sector right now, nationally, but then zeroing in maybe to Indiana, certainly lots going on, tariffs and inflation, all these types of national macro things. Talk about the banking sector, how you're seeing things, again, both nationally and right here in Indiana.
Yeah, I think what's going on in the banking sector is right now, the banks, we just went through the earnings calls most recently, and most banks are performing pretty well, Gary. I think that's nationally and locally. And I think just for, locally, what we're seeing is there's actually notable loan growth in Indiana among our existing clients. So I go on a lot of calls. I visit with a lot of our customers. We know there are a few key factors influencing loan demand, not just here in Indy, but across the country. And it's the tariff uncertainty you mentioned, interest rates, some of the geopolitical dynamics that are out there. But what we keep telling our team is to talk to our customers. We have to be in front of them. Even if there's little demand, people like to know that their bankers are there. And I think when you look broadly at the U.S. economy, it's continuing to expand through mid 2025, but growth will probably be slower this year than it was in 2023 and 24, and the unemployment rate will rise a little bit. And having said all that, we just got the new data on GDP. It came in higher than expected. After a small contraction in the first quarter, U.S. real GDP growth was 3% in the second quarter. Tariffs distort that a little bit in the first half, but the U.S. economy remains in solid shape, although it is slowing a bit. Now in Indiana, which is more relevant for you and for our viewers, our economy is on solid rebound path for the first half of 2025, and jobs in particular, have outpaced both the U.S. and the Midwest regional averages in every month since February. We've created in Indiana 29,000 jobs since January, and that's more than any other state in the upper Midwest region, other than Ohio's 47,000 roughly, despite the Hoosier State being half the size of our eastern neighbor. So, the banking community is pretty strong, Gary. I think, PNC is a strong, stable bank. We've been well capitalized and in a growth mode for a long time.
Talk about PNC, because for those like me who've been around for a long time, the roots go all the way back to Merchants National Bank when they had the big three in Indy way back then, the National City and ultimately PNC. But give us a snapshot, Jason, of PNC here in Indiana, then nationally in terms of size.
Well, we've come a long way in how we've expanded. I'll start first nationally, Gary. We've expanded a lot recently, and we've built that on the same foundation we've had for 160 years. It's, our core values, our commitment to our clients. PNC is now the sixth largest bank by assets in the United States. In 2024, we generated record revenues, strengthened capital levels, delivered positive operating leverage on both reported and adjusted basis. And we're seeing some significant momentum. And you've seen a lot of that growth. It's both organic growth and it's also by acquisition. So acquisition, most recently through BBVA, we bought BBVA USA, which is out west. That complemented some of the other acquisitions that we've made. National City going all the way back to 2008. And then you had RBC USA in roughly 2011, 2012. So we have grown and expanded via acquisition. We've also grown organically in the markets that we've been in for many years. When I joined PNC, interestingly enough, Gary, there were around 20,000 employees. Now we have over 55,000 employees. So we're at the heart of what we do every day, focused on growing businesses. So you can see the expansion of PNC here locally in Indiana. And this is a good time to give a shout out. I do have a counterpart in Northern Indiana, Karina Ladd. She's the regional president for PNC in the top third of the state. I cover the bottom 2/3 of the state. Collectively, between the two of us, we've got 75 branches in the state of Indiana. We both operate from the same strategic regional president model. It's the same in Indianapolis and in Fort Wayne. It's the same across the country, really. If you go to any market, the regional president model that we have is very consistent across those markets. And we each lead a team of bankers. The three main line of businesses are retail, corporate, institutional banking, and then our asset management group. And so, locally here in Indiana, PNC's had a really good run. You talk about it goes back to the Merchants days. It was then National City and now PNC. I've had the pleasure. I was not on the Merchant side, but I was on the National City and PNC side. So I've been fortunate to work for two really good banks that have had a strong presence across the state. National City, then when PNC bought National City in 2008, I converted over to the blue and orange.
What, as you mentioned, much has changed. Talk about adapting and how the bank adapts to increasing demand for digital services, but also kind of keeping that personal customer relationship. And brick and mortar banks, is that a thing in the past? I still see them being built from time to time. What's the whole formula, if you will, for dealing with digital and staying connected with customers?
It's a good question, and it's something that every bank is dealing with. And I think the pandemic really accelerated a lot of the digital banking that was already out there. It started before the pandemic, but the pandemic hit, digital banking really took off, mostly out of necessity because you wanted that connectivity with your customer base. And it was something that, again, that we had started before the pandemic, but brick and mortar is not going away, Gary. It's here. There's certainly a contingent of customers that still like to go into a branch. As a matter of fact, 1 in 3 still prefer a branch visit, like to go into the branch, have people that they know in the branch. And roughly 72% of our retail customers say they would not use a bank without access to a nearby branch. So again, I think is there a movement to more digital? Yes, there is, without a doubt. There are, and it's in particular the younger generation that likes to use their phones. They like those online applications. They're using them regularly, but there also is a strong, significant contingent of customers that still like to go into a branch. And we don't think that's going to change. Again, we're across the footprint. PNC actually invested about $1.5 billion in opening 200 new branches across the country, 12 cities across the U.S., I believe. And in addition to that, with that, investing in 1,400 existing branches, including several here in Indiana. So we may not be building new branches here in Indiana, but we're renovating the ones we have. They're still a really important part of the business model that we have in Indiana and across the country.
What, certainly branding, positioning, very important in any industry, including banking. And I think PNC has rebranded to the Brilliantly Boring Bank. Did I get that one right?
You got it right, Gary. That is our new marketing, and it's a great marketing campaign. I like it. It rolled out about 18 months ago, and really to get Brilliantly Boring, what that means, Gary, is we've been a steadfast, reliable, responsible bank for a long time. There's a lot of noise out there. A couple of years ago, what happened out west with Silicon Valley Bank and First Republic, that was a challenging time for banks. It made us reflect on who we are. And Brilliantly Boring is we're responsible, we're steadfast. That's what our clients expect. That's what they want from us. That's what they need from us. And so for it's a reflection of our focus and approach to take care of the day-to-day things. So the big things, the small details that lead to good outcomes. We want to be boring so you can be brilliant. And we're really good at what we do. And that may be boring to some people. And I think, one of the things about that is if you think about what the branding is, what's really cool about that is bringing Scott Dixon into the fold. So bringing Scott Dixon into a Indy, centric feel with bringing him into the national branding campaign. There's one of the commercials, I don't know if you've seen it or not, but it's one of those where he's in it and it's, what does it take to be one of the fastest men on the planet? And the answer is surprisingly boring. Viewers watch him as he takes behind the scenes, winning the 2024 Acura Grand Prix at Long Beach. And he's sitting back reviewing data, listening to whale songs. And again, that may seem boring to people, but then the brilliance shows up when he's on the racetrack. So it's an interesting marketing campaign. It's taking notice. We love it. I think it's great. I think it's really taking hold and being shared and noticed across the country. And so it's something that we're really excited about and hope that it continues.
Yeah, and we're going to talk a little bit more about your IndyCar sponsorship because that, I think, has been, at least as I look at it from the outside, a real home run for the bank. But you mentioned, doing the boring things to make your customers successful, essentially. What is the one thing that banks need to do today? Because as you look at what you can offer, all banks offer certain rates and all those different types of things, but to be competitive and to get customers, to keep customers, does it all boil down to customer service? What's the one thing that banks need to do today to be successful?
Yeah, customer service is part of that, Gary. And great question. This is something that I think about a lot in my role and in what we bring to the market. You do need to be different. There are a lot of banks out there. It's very competitive here in Indiana. It's competitive across the country. Customer service is clearly one of those things. But the other things that really matter are the quality of your people, the technology and the reinvestment in technology. You have to be able to serve your clients in a way that is up to date. It's not obsolete. It's, state-of-the-art technology. So with payments and being efficient with their company, you have to have really good people that deliver really good ideas. And I actually, in my job before I had this role, I did a lot of the sales training that we did at PNC, and that's what we need to differentiate ourselves. Why PNC? Why would you choose PNC?
Mm-hmm.
And that does come down to what makes you different. And it's your people, it's customer service, it's the good ideas that you bring, it's the technology. You can be a really strong bank, but if you don't have good people delivering those solutions, it's going to be hard to compete. You really need both. And so it goes beyond just, yes, customer service is important. We spend a lot of time talking to our people how important that really is. But it's also, you need to be prepared. You need to bring good ideas. You need to stay in front of them, especially in times like this where there's a lot of uncertainty with what's going on in the economy, with what's going on with artificial intelligence, with what's going on with tariffs. And I think you need to stay in front of them, and you need to make sure that you're listening. A good banker is also a good listener. We pride ourselves on being good listeners. So there's a lot to it. I could talk about this a lot, Gary. We do spend a lot of time here working on that and talking about that. But you need to be different, and banks, to survive and to compete, need to do that.
I know PNC puts a big premium on community service, community connection, giving back to the community in some pretty substantial ways. And one of them has been, I think it's been nationally for PNC, a big effort is the Grow Up Great campaign, early childhood education, which, as you know, has become, such a big issue in the business community and throughout the state of Indiana. Talk about that campaign and how you see it making a difference here in Indiana, because I tell you, it really has risen as a big business issue.
Yeah, thanks, Gary. Great question. And it's with Grow Up Great. You're familiar with it. We've talked about it. We made a decision. It's our 20th anniversary, by the way, actually our 21st. Last year was our 20th anniversary. And it's our primary philanthropic focus. It's been that way for 21 years. And I think with Grow Up Great, it's been a $500 million multi-year signature philanthropic initiative, dedicated to these young kids. We just decided a long time ago, we were really going to commit to this. We do a lot of things in the community. This is the primary thing that we do. This really, as a regional president, this is something that allows me to really get involved as a leader. It allows our employees to get involved in the community. They can volunteer. They're allowed, 40 hours of paid volunteer time annually to go out to these early learning centers, spend time with these kids, read to the kids. So it's not just the foundation dollars, which have been significant over those 21 years across the company. It's also the volunteer time. And it is an important issue. We've believed in it for a long time, and we have not gone away from it. It's Grow Up Great, still our signature philanthropic activity. And it's for the kids. You talk about 90% of kids' brain development happens before the age of 5, Gary. So that's a good reason in and of itself. There's also the workforce issue. If having good early learning centers where kids can go also allows the parents to go to work and not worry that their child's not being nurtured in the right way. Mm-hmm. So we're really proud of it. We've done a lot stemming back to the launch of On My Way Pre-K. My predecessor, Connie Bond Stewart, was very involved in that. I think she was actually on your show at one point in time, Gary. She did a lot. And that program in and of itself has done a lot of good for these kids and these families. It's opened up and made early childhood education very accessible. And so, for us, it's also an important issue and why we've supported your Eye on Education program since 2018. You go across the state, we've logged more than 31,000 volunteer hours in Grow Up Great here just in Indiana, and earned 431,000 in grants for great hours, which are directly distributed from early learning centers and community organizations. That's a byproduct of the volunteer hours translating into grant money.
Yeah.
So there's meaningful impact. We believe there's meaningful impact. I think you see it in the stats when you look at kids that go through really strong early learning centers. They get to kindergarten and they're prepared. They're prepared for kindergarten and beyond because of their experience in one of these early learning centers. So the impact is real. Our commitment is real. And that's not going to stop. We're going to, something that we're going to focus on in the years to come.
Do you sense that your participation, among others, but certainly your high profile participation has helped to push this issue into the consciousness, if you will, of Indiana, of lawmakers and others and other businesses, because it, really, again, it did rise to become a real big issue. Where do you see it going forward?
I do think that the impact that we've had, I do think it's more visible. when I'm out in the community and I'm at events, I do have a lot of businesses come up to me and thank me for all that PNC is doing on this issue and asking me how they can get involved and what they can do to get involved. And I think it is something that's going to be a big issue in the coming years and needs to, and whether that's, directly the funding that's behind it or the accessibility. But you've got a lot of good organizations, Early Learning Indiana, the United Way, across the state that are dedicated to this. And so I do think that as you see time go on, I don't think that this is going to be any less relevant or any less important. And I do think that the community itself and other business leaders and other businesses, and I do think have grasped the idea that this is a really important issue for not just these families and these kids, but for their companies and for the long-term economic health of our city, our state. So I think that's the impact that I think they see, and they understand that's something that they need to be a part of.
Yep.
Not one company can do it alone. We need others to step in and help us with that.
Much more ahead with Jason Eckerle. We'll talk about that IndyCar sponsorship that has become a very high-profile effort with a very high-profile driver and a lot of success there. And also Jason's path to PNC. That's when the Business and Beyond podcast returns.
At PNC Bank, we're committed to making a difference in the lives of our customers and communities by helping them move forward financially. As a Main Street bank, we try to do right by our customers with every encounter. Our local teams offer personalized financial advice to help guide you in making the best decision. We're proud to be part of your community. PNC Bank. See how we can make a difference for you at pnc.com. Copyright 2022, the PNC Financial Services Group, Inc., all rights reserved.
We build Indiana. The Laborers International Union of North America builds and maintains roads, bridges, and other essential infrastructure that make us the crossroads of America. So thanks to LIUNA members' work, Hoosiers have a better quality of life, like access to utilities, easier routes to jobs, schools, or medical care, and deliveries keep moving. We build Indiana for good jobs and stronger communities. The Laborers International Union of North America. We are LIUNA.
Up your business news game with a subscription to the IBJ and Inside Indiana Business. For a limited time, try us out for just $1 a week for 8 weeks. Get started now at ibj.com/trial offer.
And welcome back to the Business and Beyond podcast. My guest this week, the Regional President for Central and Southern Indiana for PNC Bank, and that is Mr. Jason Eckerle. And Jason, PNC has a very high profile, certainly in Indiana. And one of the reasons for that, I think, is your IndyCar sponsorship with Chip Ganassi Racing, super successful team, and your driver, Scott Dixon. Talk about that partnership, why you did it to begin with, because that's a big commitment. Any sports sponsorship, you got to say, well, gosh, what's the return on investment on this deal? What was the thought process going into that, the idea to get into IndyCar?
Yeah, it started, Gary, with our chairman, CEO, Bill Demchak, and Chip Ganassi, both being from Pittsburgh. They had a friendship, and that's really where it got started. And again, not being privy to all the details of all that, but it was 2013 when we started to get involved as a sponsor for Chip Ganassi Racing, and then it was 2018 when we had the PNC number 9 car of Scott Dixon. And it's been a great partnership, Gary. It's been great, not just for us in Indianapolis. We clearly get the benefit of that, being here the whole month of May, with our clients and employees, but across the whole country and across our whole footprint. It's an important partnership with that. Chip Ganassi is great. The whole team is great. Scott's an amazing driver. Obviously, he's also a great guy. He's a family guy, and for us, it's given us some visibility in the market. We host client events. We've had our PNC Day at the track that he's been a part of. We host clients and prospects and stakeholders at the race. We have the Chip and Scott and the whole team create a really nice experience for us for that. The other thing is with the partnership with Grow Up Great. We just talked about Grow Up Great. Scott's very generous with his time. He comes out with me. We go to the early learning centers in May and we read together, and he's very committed to the issue as well. So it goes beyond just racing, but the racing's pretty fun too.
Yeah.
You look at Scott and how accomplished he is. He has the most IndyCar starts with 408, surpassing Mario Andretti. That's recent. That's a previous record. He's got 142 podium finishes and 59 career wins. The 59 career wins is second only, I believe, to AJ Foyt. So an amazing, hardworking, incredibly successful driver. It's an honor and a privilege to know him, to know Chip Ganassi, to know the whole team. It's been a great partnership. Again, like I said, for all of our employees take really a lot of pride in working with them, being a part of it in May, and then the rest of the season when they're out racing in other cities. Other markets get to be a part of that. But just the quality of the individual Scott Dixon it makes it even better. And the quality of individual that Chip Ganassi is, the whole team, the people that we've had a chance to really get to know. It's been a phenomenal partnership, and we hope it continues. It's been great. For PNC.
Well, give us an idea, because I'm always fascinated. The motorsports business is entrepreneurial. It's technology focused. It's competitive. There's so many elements to it. As you have witnessed what Chip Ganassi and that team have built in terms of an enterprise, a business, very successful and extremely competitive business. What do you notice about the way they do business there?
Well, the one word that comes to mind, Gary, is teamwork. Chip Ganassi talks about teamwork all that. We're one team. We're all here for one reason, no matter if you're one of the drivers or you're one of the mechanics or you're one of the interns, you're a part of one team. And he means it. When you're out there with them and you're out at the headquarters and you're around the people that are in the shop or the people that are part of the pit crew or the drivers, they all support each other. They all work together. And you said, again, you need to be on the cutting edge of technology, and there are things that make there's such a fine line between a successful driver and a successful team that they clearly do that and do that well. I think it's more the intangibles. What makes them really good is I think they have a culture there that's built around teamwork. And I think that really means something to those people there and the whole team. And like I said, you feel it when you're there. You're at their headquarters. You're out at the speedway. You travel with them. Wherever you are, you just feel like it's a place you want to be. Mm-hmm. And I think that has really been a differentiator for Chip and all of Chip Ganassi Racing. They have, and he talks about it. He talks about one team, one mission.
Yeah,
and they live by it. It's not just a cliche or something that they just talk about. It's something that they live, and it's meaningful.
What is there a moment off the top of your head? I'm sure maybe there were several. It's been really the most fun about this partnership and being around that team and that driver.
Yeah, for me personally, the example I'll give you is I had the chance to take Scott and Dario Franchitti to a Pacers game, playoff game here recently. Mm-hmm. And that was a lot of fun. You actually for a few minutes got to feel what it was like to be that well known and that famous, and you could live a little bit vicariously through them, Gary. So that was a fun experience for me. But what I would say generally being around the team, it's race day. My favorite part of the year is actually being out there on race day with Scott, with Chip, with the team, with clients, with stakeholders, with people that we do business with and they're important to the bank, and just the whole experience. Race day is just for me anyway, it's one of the days I look forward to the most.
Yeah. You're very familiar with the race day in Indianapolis. You grew up here. Give us a little snapshot, Jason, of the early days. Where'd you grow up here in Indy? School? What those younger years were like?
Yeah, I'm a Hoosier through and through, Gary. I was born in Bloomington, Indiana, and moved to Indianapolis after my dad graduated from law school. My siblings and I grew up on the near north side in the Meridian Kessler area. My mom is a retired school teacher. My dad's a retired attorney. My brother's an investment advisor here in town, and my sister is a doctor. So we're all still here.
Yeah.
But I was fortunate to have a great childhood. I grew up here in Indianapolis, and first job I ever had was as a busboy at Charlie and Barney's in Broader. Oh, which is no longer there. It's been gone here a long time. But the first job I ever had, I think I was in 8th grade, Gary, and riding my bike to Broad Ripple and working at Charlie and Barney's and making a little money. And my parents instilled a pretty good work ethic in me around that. And went to Chittard High School here in town. And a good story with that is I was a baseball player.
Okay.
And as we were talking earlier, my family's from Jasper, Indiana. So the Eckerles were one of the
baseball territory. Yeah.
One of the original families who settled in Jasper in the 1800s. So I'm the first generation to not grow up in Jasper. Well, I played baseball. Chittard and Jasper had a big baseball rivalry. And when I was a sophomore, I was a skinny little sophomore kid, but I threw strikes and I got the call, played in the game, had a shutout game against Jasper, which was a highlight for me. But what had to be interesting was on the broadcast of that game, how there was an Eckerle playing for Chautauqua, not playing for Jasper. So with the Eckerles coming from Jasper, it had to be a little bit weird that they were talking about an Eckerle who was playing on the Chautauqua baseball team.
That's good.
So, and I went to Indiana University, Bloomington.
Yeah.
And studied public policy and government. And while I was there, I had the fortunate opportunity to intern for Senator Richard Lugar. There was a Washington leadership program through IU that I had a chance. So I had a wonderful semester out in Washington, D.C., being around Senator Lugar. Wonderful human being, great statesman. He was really good to the interns. He would take us running in the mall and spend time with you, and quality individual. And so I had that experience as well. My wife went to IU. I met her at IU, and she actually worked in Lugar's office with me. So
okay,
Senator Lugar got a double dose of the Eckerles, even though Kim wasn't an Eckerle at the time.
Yeah.
We got married in 1995 and settled here in Indianapolis. And I've got 3 amazing kids. And I think for Kim and I, it's our greatest achievement. I've got an older son who's in Boston in accounting. I have a younger son, middle child, who's in private equity in New York City. And then I have a daughter who's 19, who's a sophomore in college at Washington University in St. Louis.
Yeah. What led you on the banking path? Is that something that collected you always wanted to do it, or was there something else?
It was a great question. It was actually when I was out in Washington, I knew I was going to come back. I wasn't going to stay in Washington, D.C. long term. And I was always good at math. So I thought I knew I needed a more strong and stable profession. I wanted to raise a family in Indianapolis. And so I came back to and I got my MBA at Butler. And I started at National City. They had a wonderful tuition reimbursement program. I got my MBA at night, working at National City during the day. And so that's how I got into banking. I just knew that it was something that I would always, I thought in the back of my mind, finance and banking was always something I thought I would be good at. And what I liked about it was not just the finance part of it, but the people part of it. I'm a people person. I like to be around people. That's a big part of it for me. I knew I would get to do both. And it worked out that way. And I've been around a long time, Gary. It's I was around when there were carbon copy checks, if you remember those. So,
sure.
And actually when you used to type out your promissory notes on a typewriter, so I've now what used to be, I used to be the banker that was just getting started. Now I'm the guy that can talk about stories about carbon copy checks and promissory notes being typed out on a typewriter.
I love it. What, as you look going forward, Jason, as you mentioned, so much change in the banking industry on multiple levels. But as you look at PNC, where you are today and where you'd like PNC here in Indianapolis and Indiana to be in, say, 5-10 years, thinking about all the change that will occur between now and then, where do you see the bank going forward?
For us here in Indiana, we're here to take market share and grow, and we have the people and we have the technology, we have the approach and the culture to do so. I have big aspirations for us, whether it's me in the regional president role or somebody else. We have the right people. We have the right culture. I feel like I'm optimistic about the next 5 to 10 years. I do think that, for us, it's about execution. We have everything we need. There's nothing we don't have. It's more about executing and making sure that we have the right energy level, about getting after it and bringing in new business and bringing in new clients and taking care of our current ones and making it as simple as that.
Well, Jason, it's been a real treat to catch up with you. You and the bank continue to make a big impact here in Indianapolis and the Indianapolis region as well. And I want to thank you, too, for your support, your sponsorship of our weekly Eye on Education segment on TV, and also this podcast. I should mention it's presented by PNC, and that support is much appreciated. But thanks for all you do, and I look forward to hopefully seeing you very soon.
Yeah, thanks, Gary. Appreciate you having me on, and I'm optimistic about Indiana. We have a great story to tell, and I'm optimistic about PNC. We have a great story to tell, and I appreciate you allowing me to come on the podcast and talk about it. I look forward to seeing you again soon.
Very good. Jason Eckerle, the regional president for Central and Southern Indiana for PNC Bank here in Indianapolis. And thank you for joining us on this episode of the Business and Beyond podcast. Again, it's presented by PNC for a weekly conversation with achievers in business, sports, entertainment, and beyond. And you can download all of our episodes and get Indiana business news 24/7. All you have to do is go to InsideIndianaBusiness.com. I'm Gary Dick. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.
I'm Tiffany Souter, mom of four, wife, entrepreneur, and host of the Life of And podcast. For years, I built my life with brute force, a successful business, a growing family, and absolutely zero margin. I was tired, snappy, and felt constantly behind, and I was too afraid to admit it. Everything changed when I stopped trying to do more and started building systems that actually worked for my real life. If you too are craving more peace, more presence, and just more time for you, I'd love for you to join me on the Life of And. Subscribe now on your favorite podcast app or listen at ibjpodcast.com.
The IBJ Media Podcast Network is the soundtrack of a growing state. Indiana is on the move, and you can hear it happening on the IBJ Media Podcast Network. We bring you the voices at the center of our economy, our courts, our companies, and our communities. Subscribe now and be part of the conversation that's building Indiana's future. Find all of our shows by searching IBJ Media in your podcast app or visit ibjpodcasts.com.